How about them Dark Angels? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Glacial Geek Deep Thoughts Thin Coats with me, Phil the Glacial Geek. Today, I'm going to be talking about the top 5 winners from the brand new Space Marine Codex here. I've had some time to now look at this book. I gave a review, which if you haven't watched yet, you can check it out. I guess it's up here. No, here. One of these two places. Check it out. I'm going to try to put a link there, and you can check it out. And it's got all of it basically goes over everything from the new codex, so you can get an idea of what's been going on with the transhuman loyalists that we've got going on here. There have been a lot of changes in that book, so if you want to check it out, I mean, a lot of things have changed, and you're going to see a lot of the mainstays that I think that a lot of people kind of consider to be the Space Marine meta and how things were going forward has changed drastically. And I think that a lot of the issues that people had with the Space Marines got dialed back a bit. But as anything happens when you have these changes, there were some times, and there were some very significant moments in this new book that I believe certainly benefited the Space Marines. Whether that makes them still, I think they're still going to be top notch. I think that Space Marines in general are going to be top notch. I think my Dark Angels are going to be very, very much top notch, and I'm very excited about that. But there were some specific some specific units that I think benefited greatly from the changes that occurred in this book, and I'm kind of going to go over some of my favorites so far. So at number 1, not in any particular order, honestly, but number 1, we're going to talk about Terminators. I think Terminators have greatly benefited from this new codex. I think that Terminators, with the changes that happened to Power Fist, now having a flat 2 damage versus a D3, a lot more dependable. I think that the changes to Lightning Claws, giving them an extra attack for each Lightning Claw, and they're going to be going in, if they go in with the 2 Lightning Claws, giving them extra 2 attacks, I think was very beneficial. And I think adding the extra wound to them makes it super beneficial, because they're super tanky units, and they're meant to be super tanky units. And the fact that they now have 3 wounds apiece, and a 2-up armor save and a 5-up invul save built into them, makes them super reliable, and especially in an edition that requires you to stick around and hold on to objectives and hold on to your position for a lot longer than you had previously. I think that Terminators are going to be a great addition to the Space Marines, that you didn't really see them a lot in 7th and 8th edition. I have a whole lot of Deathwing Terminators built and painted because I loved playing them at the end of 6th edition into the early 7th edition when we had the 6th edition Codex, and they performed very well for me then, and they've kind of been sitting on the shelf a lot recently. And more particularly for the Terminators, I think that the Deathwing Terminators, so the Dark Angels Terminators and the Deathwing Knights, benefited the most out of these changes, because they had all of those changes. In addition, they received the Inner Circle keyword, which for Dark Angels, the Inner Circle keyword gives them, they can't fall back, so there's that issue. We're back to that same issue with the Fearless, or was it Fearless? Back when you couldn't fall back if you had it, and a lot of the chaplains had it and such, where you couldn't fall back. And I had one time when my friend charged me with a Triarch Stalker into my Integrator Chaplain, and he literally couldn't wound him, because back then when vehicles, if you couldn't hurt the front facing armor, there's nothing you could do about it. But I also had the Fearless, so I couldn't fall back, and it meant that I was just stuck there until he finally whittled me down and killed me. So we have that a little bit of now, where you have to pass like a leadership test if you want to fall back, and if they're fallen, you can't fall back at all. But you also have a built-in transhuman physiology. We're now infantry models, so it's important to note, because Deathwing, the Ravenwing Black Knights also have Inner Circle, but it's only the infantry units now are going to be having a built-in transhuman physiology, where a roll of a dice on a 1 through 3 cannot wound them. So you have to have a 4+ to wound them no matter what. So if you're punching my Deathwing Terminator with a giant Knight Titan, and he's got his he's using his gauntlet, and he's punching there with like strength 16 or whatever, you still have to roll a 4+ to wound him, because 1 through 3 is not going to wound him. So I mean, that stratagem got changed in the new book now, where it's only for Primaris units. So they're essentially those Terminators, those Deathwing Terminators, are going to be one of the only units now that has transhuman physiology that they're able to use that are of the Firstborn variety. So I think the Terminators, specifically Dark Angel Terminators, with the Deathwing Knights and the Deathwing Terminators, benefited a lot from this new book. Second, let's talk about the Apothecary. So he went up in points, and now you have access to a lot of the chapter command, where you can upgrade like your captain to a chapter master. You can upgrade your chaplains to the Master of Sanctity, and you can upgrade your apothecary to chief apothecary. But beyond that, I think just innately the apothecary models have benefited greatly, because now they give out a 3-inch bubble of feel no pain to units. So if you have them running along with a lot of your units there, they're going to be giving feel no pain. And that's super beneficial with a lot of Marine units now having 3 wounds. So Terminators, anything with Gravis armor, they're going to have the ability to be able to stick around. And if you can keep 3 damaged weapons from taking out an entire model, if they're still around next turn, then the Apothecary can heal them back up. So they're going to be beneficial in just keeping all of those Gravis armor units alive, all of those Terminators alive, just running around there with that feel no pain and the healing that they have innate within them. There's also now a stratagem to bring back a model from a unit that is less than full strength. So all of a sudden now your Outrider bikes can be brought back, your Terminators, your Deathwing Knights can be brought back, and it's I think it's 1 CP if you're just a regular apothecary, and it's 0 CP if you are if you're the chief apothecary for your detachment, if you pay the points. And it's like 15 points extra, so you can get that for free each turn, and you just keep bringing back. And there's a lot of models out there that benefit from it. I think one of the big ones they talk about also is you can take units of the new ATV that the Primaris have, and those can be brought back. If you bring them in a unit, bring back one of them, because they're also bikers. So it's bikers and infantry that you can bring back. So Terminators are going to get it. All of those Primaris with the 3 wound Primaris with the Gravis armor are going to be coming back. I think they're going to become super effective, and they got a bump in price and points that pay for them, but I think it's well worth the cost of it. And I think another one that's going to benefit a lot from it is the fact that the Dark Angels now have access to an Apothecary on bike, because they're the only ones who have access to an Apothecary on bike with the Ravenwing Apothecary, doing all those fun things, and can still be bumped up there to Chief Apothecary if you so desire. So Apothecaries I think are going to be super good with this new book. The next one that I think benefited as well are the Devastator squads. The fact that they got bumped up to 2 wounds makes a big difference in survivability. I know, you think, duh, Phil, like they've got the 2 extra, they got 2 wounds instead of 1. That's twice as able to stick around as you would have thought. But I think the simple fact of having 2 wounds means that 1 wound weapons now, you have to get 2 hits instead of 1. And I know that seems super basic and a concept, but on the table, they stick around. They're going to stick around a lot longer. I faced off against them recently in a battle report, which is going to be coming out on Monday, and you can see how they stick around a lot longer than you would have thought based upon how it goes. I know there's going to be there's a lot more 2 damage weapons that are going to be out there, including the Thunderhammers are now 2 damage weapons, and I think that if you look at like heavy bolters being 2 damage weapons, all of that stuff is going to make a big difference. But they can stick around a lot longer, and they also have access. They're one of the cheapest ways to put out some of these new heavy weapons that are going to do well, like the multi-melta. I think is going to be fantastic. A squad of Devastators with 4 multi-meltas inside of a drop pod dropping down are just going to blow apart anything that you have there. You're going to have 8 shots from that 5-man Devastator squad that are relatively cheap. I know the price went up a bit because they have the extra point there, but I think that the fact that they have those now are going to be sticking around. They put out 8 shots that are now doing D6 plus 2 if you can get them within half range of 24 inches. So you have to get them within 12 inches. There's also a stratagem now that you can pay 2 CP to have a unit stay still, and they won't suffer the penalty for moving after they drop down out of those drop pods. So they drop down out of the drop pods, they're fine at full ballistic skill. They have Armorium Cherub to get an extra shot per turn, and they also have the Sergeant also still gives the Signum, so he still gives that +1 to hit for one of those models that will now be hitting with the Armorium Cherub as well there. So he's going to have 2 rounds of shooting with that. So you're looking at, if you pop the Armorium Cherub, you're looking at 4 shots at ballistic skill 2, and you're looking at an additional 12 shots or 6 shots with ballistic skill 3. And if you're Dark Angels and you pop that strat, suddenly now they're all at ballistic skill 2. So beautiful. And you drop them down. Now they're shooting at the Dark Angels ones. You drop them down, spend that strat. They get +1 to hit because they're Dark Angels and they stood still. They've got the +1 to hit. So now you're shooting at even flyers down there at your full ballistic skill. So you've got 3s and 2s as opposed to 4s and 3s and 4s. And you can pop it, and I think it's great. You can take out flyers, you can take out whatever you need to do. You can drop them down there turn 1, and they're going to do a lot of work. And then you have a drop pod that is going to be sitting on an objective or sitting in a table quarter, giving you access to engage on all fronts pretty easily. So, because then they have to either decide to attack that drop pod to get you not having to save you the points, but then anything that's going to be attacking a drop pod is something that's not attacking the rest of your army, and I think it's pretty awesome. So I think Devastator squads benefited a lot with this new book here. Next, I think that bikes have greatly benefited from this. Again, because of the extra wound that they're going to receive here, but the fact that mobility in 9th edition is key to a lot of the secondaries as well as the primaries. Being able to get onto objectives, sit on those objectives, hold them, and be able to get into either your enemy deployment zones or getting into a table quarter to get you those secondaries. These bikes are going to be beneficial and going to be super good at achieving those objectives and achieving those missions. They're super fast to be able to get around the board. They're also super tough with a tough 5 versus tough 4, like most Marine models. And now they have 3 wounds. They can benefit from the Apothecary. They can benefit, most of them are core units, so they can still benefit from a lot of the auras from the Space Marine stuff that got changed. So, quite frankly, I think bikers are going to be huge in this edition, just because of the changes that have happened to this in this edition with the way that the missions work and the way that the models have to do certain things to gain you victory. They're going to be fantastic because you can't really sit back in your own table edge and just shoot away. Gun lines aren't as effective if they're not mobile, and bikes are going to provide a lot of mobility. Because there's a lot of stuff with the Space Marines that isn't as mobile, like that new bunker that can drop down, or the weapons platforms, or even a lot of the other tanks that I know they don't suffer the penalty for moving and shooting anymore. But if they want to stick around with wherever they are, they don't have as much mobility. And now the bikers are going to be the fastest thing out there, other than aircraft that can't hold objectives, though. They're going to be the fastest thing that the Space Marines have, and I think they're going to be super effective at achieving all those different things. And the last thing I'd like to point out, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that benefited. There's a lot of things that got changed, that got hurt, that I think are still effective, that maybe, who knows. I think that Dreadnoughts have been super benefited with this new edition, with this new codex here. All of the Dreadnoughts in the core rulebook have received access to a brand new thing called Duty Eternal, which was a stratagem previously that used to be you divide the damage in half, then it got changed to just reducing the damage by 1. Now it's still reducing damage by 1 to the units for each attack that comes into them, but it's now ingrained as just a part of who they are. So Venerable Dreadnoughts are now going to have that, plus that Feel No Pain, the Venerable save that they've got going on there. And they're just going to be able to benefit from all that. And I think that having that kind of durability, minusing the damage, is going to be huge. They're also core units, so that they are going to be able to benefit from all the auras. So your captains are going to give them reroll 1s. Your lieutenants are going to give them reroll 1s to wound. And they're going to be able to benefit from a mobile kind of army line that's going to be able to move up the board and keep pushing up to get more board control, which you're going to need for this edition. So I think that they are going to take a place of a lot of the other heavy weapon options that are out there. I think a lot of the tanks suffer because they don't have core, so they don't get the benefit of a lot of the reroll auras that the characters from the Space Marines have, or even at the litanies that give out from the chaplains. But Dreadnoughts are core units, so they have the ability to benefit from all of those things. And they still have a lot of strong shooting. So you've got regular Dreadnoughts with las cannons, you've got Redemptor Dreadnoughts with just the number of shots they can get with the Onslaught Gatling cannon, or they can get the Plasma Incinerator there. I think it's going to be great. And the plasma incinerator, it's on natural or unmodified rolls of 1 that it suffers mortal wounds, and it's super good now. You don't have to worry about shooting into a Latok flyers at -3 to hit and suffering mortal wounds on 4s to hit. So that change, I think the only being at -1, but also it only being on a natural roll of 1. You can't keep them completely safe with the +1 to hit, like that Dark Angels would get by standing still, but you can benefit them that they don't have to suffer the -1 to hit and suffering it on 1s and 2s anymore. So I think a lot of the changes that happen there benefit the Dreadnoughts from being core units and from getting the Duty Eternal and being a good solid shooting platform. I think a lot of you may have noticed that I said Dark Angels a whole lot there, and as you can see, I'm a big fan of the Dark Angels. I'm a huge fan. I've been collecting them, building them, painting them for a while now, and I'm a big fan of all of the Sons of the Lion there and what they do. And I think this book is super good for them. And the FAQ that came out that changed a lot of the stuff, like giving the Raven Wing now have it where as long as they move, they get a 5-up invul save against shooting, and if they advance, they get the 4-up invul save. So it's a boost to Jink that they had that they didn't have previously. And now the Inner Circle rule, giving them basically transhuman physiology, is super beneficial. So now a lot of the characters that you have are going to get the benefit to that. So now Belial you can't hurt him on 2s and 3s. Same thing with Azrael, can't hurt him on 2s and 3s. I think a lot of the characters for the Dark Angels are now, is going to be some of the best beat stick models that you're going to have out there available because of the changes that they have there. And the fact that if they stand still, they get a +1 to hit. So if it's your turn and you want to charge into a Dark Angel, remember that they're going to be hitting you on 2s because other than consolidating and pile-in and consolidation, if they didn't move this turn, they get a +1 to hit. So if you charge into them, they couldn't have moved this turn, so they are going to be getting that +1 to hit. So they're going to be hitting you on 2s most of the time, and if they have a Power Fist, they're going to be hitting you, or an unwieldy weapon, so a Thunderhammer, they're going to be hitting you on 3s. And if you then charge them while they're in terrain, they can also, prepare their positions there, and they can get an additional +1 to hit in that round of combat. So you charge into them, all of a sudden they're +2 to hit, and with the -1 from the weapon, they're still going to be hitting you on 2s, which is pretty fantastic. So pretty brutal stuff, and I think that the Space Marines did have a lot of stuff that benefited them with this new book. I know there was a lot of doomsayers out there that they got nerfed real hard. Certain things got nerfed really hard, and I think a lot of the things that did get nerfed really hard were causing more issues in the community than they were benefiting even Space Marine players. I think that this new book feels a lot more balanced than the previous iteration of Space Marines. I think Dark Angels got a super boost, but I think they were pretty low on the spectrum of Marines as it was. And even they didn't avoid the changes entirely. Like we lost access to Weapons of the Dark Age and Speed of the Raven. A lot of those things that we had been pretty much, that I would spend all my CP on are now gone. So you have to learn a new way to play them. But I think you can. And I think that Dark Angels are going to be an excellent choice going forward for the Space Marines. And I think that Space Marines are going to be an excellent choice going forward for people. But I don't think that they're broken. And I don't think that people will complain. People always complain. That's just the nature of, especially when you're dealing with GW products. People complain. I've heard literally every army called OP. And you may say, like, well, not this army. It's like, yes, I've literally heard every army called OP at one point or another because they lost. Someone lost to them and they considered them OP because they couldn't beat them. And I mean, that's what the reality comes down to. And I think there are people that are going to say, like, well, Marines are still OP. I mean, Marines are good. I don't think that I don't think Marines should be bad. I think that there was a big gap there where Marines were pretty bad and people didn't want to play them. And I don't think that's good for the community. I don't think that's good for the game because they're the flagship. They're the flagship faction for the game. And I think going forward, they should be considered pretty good. I don't think that they should get special treatment, and I don't think they do get special treatment, especially not with this book. I think they got a pretty good balancing with this. A lot of the times you think about like brand new codex, and they've got like this huge power creep that happens with it. This one does not feel that way. This one feels like it was a balancing change that happened, and it's going to be beneficial for everyone involved. So, those are just my thoughts. What are your thoughts? I know that we just having access, you can see the videos, you can see what's going on, and the FAQs literally just dropped yesterday. So, as far as I'm recording this. So, let me know what you think is going to be beneficial, what you think is going to be good for the Space Marines going forward. Comment down below and let me know what you think. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if you think that there's a better chapter out there that's going to be doing better than the Dark Angels, let me know, and I'll tell you how you're wrong. But yeah, keep the conversation going. I really like to hear from what you guys have to say, and we'll keep going forward with that. So, I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. I have been Phil, the Glacial Geek, as always. And until next time, stay safe and have fun.